Hey there everybody, I'm Joe the Disney Guy, and today we're going to be taking our first look at a Disney Channel show by finding out what's the sitch with everybody's favorite teenage crime fighter, Kim Possible. So back in 2002, the Disney Channel was looking for a show that put ordinary kids in extraordinary circumstances. One day, television writer Mark McCorkle turned to his partner Bob Shuley in an elevator and said, "Kim Possible, she can do anything." Shuley responded with, "Ron Stoppable, he can't do anything," and thus the show Kim Possible was born. Now, before we start getting into the show, we need to talk about the musical triumph that is Kim Possible's theme song. Call Me Beat Me, sung by Christina Milian, is one of the most earwormy theme songs around.
Call me, beat me, if you wanna reach me, when you wanna face me, it's okay. Whenever you need me, baby. Call me, beat me, if you wanna reach me.
There, now you'll be singing that for the rest of the day. You're welcome. In all seriousness though, this really is a perfect song for the show. It's fast-paced, catchy, and just gets you in the right mood to watch Kim Possible kick some butt. Though I mean, let's be honest, what teenage girl in the early 2000s could you beep or page? Heck, today you can barely even call one, though I suppose that text me, tweet me wouldn't be as catchy. Anyway, the show follows Kim Possible, a typical teenage high school student with typical high school problems, who also happens to moonlight as a world famous crime fighter, along with her best friend slash sidekick, Ron Stoppable, and the computer genius slash Tony Stark impersonator, Wade. This is also a good time to mention that I'm only looking at the first 3 seasons of the show today. There was a bit of a hiatus before the 4th season, and even then there were romance angles and just a general change in the feel of the show. But don't worry, we'll get to that one another day. The show does an interesting job in balancing that high school and crime fighting dynamic. You actually get a healthy dose of each in every episode, and in some cases the stories actually blend quite nicely. I think that this element is what helped the show appeal so much to both male and female viewers, as it wasn't just an action show and it wasn't just a show about the dramas of high school. It was both. I think that the character development benefited from this mix of styles as well. As fun as it is to watch explosions and fight scenes, you generally don't learn much about characters from them, or at least not as much as you would in a more everyday scene. It was through the more typical high school subplots that we saw the other side of Kim, aside from the fearless crime stopper. We saw that she's highly competitive, she can be jealous, and she's woefully shy around boys. All of this not only helped make Kim Possible a more well-rounded character, but it also made her far more relatable to the audience. Fun fact, Kim Possible was originally supposed to be a blonde bombshell, designed more in a style like a Lara Croft, but the show creators and Disney Channel eventually decided she didn't look like she was real enough. Authenticity is key when talking about a cheerleader who fights supervillains in her spare time after all. But let's be honest, you can't have a show about a crime-fighting cheerleader without villains, and Kim Possible has quite the lineup of eccentric baddies. Although there are a ton of fun villains to choose from, including the crazy Monkey Fist and the surprisingly entertaining Senor Seniors, my favorites have to be Dr. Draken and Shigo. Draken is just a perfect blend of goofy and evil, serving as both a great antagonist and an even better comic relief at times, while Shigo, in all honesty, may be my favorite character in the whole series. She has an interesting backstory, a quick wit, and she seems like the only truly competent villain around. Plus, any scene where she went hand to hand with Kim was a highlight, just because the creators actually made her combat skills comparable to Kim's, which was rare in the show. Shigo also had that complex hate/respect relationship with Kim, and I always enjoyed listening to their banter with one another. Speaking of banter, the show was actually pretty funny. I was surprised how often I found myself laughing watching some of these episodes again. If you ever want a quick laugh, just check out the messages on the school's board and it'll do the trick. But I don't think I'm alone when I say that most of my laughs came from Ron, but it wasn't usually the overtly goofy stuff like his pants falling off, but rather his little throwaway lines or just his irreverent comments. I mean honestly, just listen to this line.
That is the second biggest flamingo I have ever seen.
There is no context, no explanation, nothing. And yet it cracks me up every single time. I thought that the voice actors did a great job really giving life to these crazy characters. And a lot of that can be attributed to the absolutely ridiculous cast put together for this show. I mean, just listen to the names of the people who they got to lend their voices. There's your Disney/ABC mainstays Christy Carlson Romano, Will Friedle, and Raven Simone, but then there was Taj Mowry, the voice of Bender from Futurama, John DiMaggio, Nicole Sullivan, Patrick Warburton, George Takei, Fred Savage, John Cho, Bill Goldberg, the voice of Homer Simpson, Dan Castellaneta, Adam West, both Joey Fatone and Lance Bass from NSYNC, Patton Oswalt, Melissa McCarthy, Ricardo Montalban, the list goes on and on and on. They even got Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, to voice Rufus. She even got nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award for it. He's a naked mole rat! Half the time he was just making squeaking noises! I wouldn't be doing the show justice though if I didn't talk about their use of strong female characters. I think that Kim is an awesome role model for young girls. She's smart, independent, and beats up bad guys for a living. What more could you want? You could even argue that her and Ron display a bit of a role reversal from the norm, with the girl being the leader and the guy as the sidekick. And Kim and Ron aren't even the only pair who exhibit this in the show. Though Draken may technically be the leader and Shigo the sidekick, Anyone who watches them for more than 2 seconds knows exactly who's calling the shots in that operation. Though, if we're being honest with ourselves, if anyone came up to me with glowing green hands, I'd let them call the shots too. Two of my favorite episodes from the series were The New Ron and Emotion Sickness. In The New Ron, it was kind of fun seeing Ron get to be the cool guy for once, and I thought it was fun seeing one of the many strange ways that supervillains become supervillains. And as for Emotion Sickness, watching Kim and Shigo go through a range of emotions totally outside their normal characters was entertaining, and the episode sort of addressed Ron's complex feelings towards actually dating Kim for the first time, which was really interesting to see. All in all, there's a reason that Kim Possible is still the longest running Disney Channel original show, because it's good. Personally, I enjoyed watching Kim Possible. It had a little bit of everything: action, comedy, fun characters, great voice acting, but most of all, it's just plain fun to watch. Well guys, that about wraps it up for me this week. I hope you all enjoyed the episode, and let me know what you think of Kim Possible and if there's any other Disney shows you want me to review. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and check out last week's video and next week's video. And I'll see you all next week.